Paul Edwards. It's good to sit down with you. I'd love you to share a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then share your journey, your story of getting through to be head of claims and your insurance career journey.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me on. Paul Edwards, Vice President, Head of Claims for Central Insurance. And yeah, when I think about my journey, I wouldn't have designed it how it's unfolded. But when I look back on it, I just feel so fortunate to have been given a lot of the opportunities I've been given, and in particular to work with some like really good and learn from just some absolutely brilliant people. And I would say that's like a theme. If I have themes, it's like I feel very lucky, and that's where I'll start. And then lucky on many fronts, but like the people that I worked with became like a big part of my story and my career journey. So,
Yeah.
but when I talk to claims professionals today, usually they fall into like, one of two categories. People who, from a very early on, knew that they wanted to get into insurance, or even in claims, in claims in particular sometimes. And those people usually had family members or friends of the family who knew how awesome this industry is. And how awesome claims is. In fact, probably for another discussion, I think claims is the most underrated profession out there. And then there's another category, the category of people that absolutely lucked into this industry. So that was me. I absolutely lucked into it. I completed my undergraduate studies in agriculture business, and when I graduated, it wasn't the best time to be looking for a job, or at least I had a harder time than maybe other people. I had exactly two job offers coming out of college. One was like an operations specialist at a farmer's rice cooperative, and the other was an entry-level work comp claim handler for Liberty Mutual.
Oh.
I had been a broke college student for the last 4 years, so my decision criteria was so easy. The claims handler job paid more, and so I sat down at my first claims desk.
All due respect to Rice, but you made the right call, obviously. What led you from that first? And I think actually a lot of people have a similar entry point story, or maybe they're debating that if they haven't entered yet. But what led you from there to here? What were some of the key contributors to that journey?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I took on that role. Actually, my first 2 weeks I spent out in your neck of the woods, in Boston with claims training. I got back from claims training to and went to a full caseload, full desk. I was off and running. And there's a few kind of profound moments. I landed on the helmsman management team at Liberty Mutual. We managed claims for large national markets, self-insured accounts. And I remember it was about a month in, it was a conversation I was having with myself. I was asked to fly out to meet with one of Liberty's largest accounts to do a claims review. And back then, it was suit and tie, shake the hand, and you'd go through all the claims with the customer. And the customers I was meeting with were super savvy. I mean, they'd forgotten more about claims than I knew at that point in my career. So this first moment that I had that I thought was, that I'll note. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting on the balcony of my hotel room in San Francisco preparing for this claims review. And I remember thinking, do these people, meaning Liberty Mutual, know the level of responsibility they're giving me? I'm meeting with one of our largest accounts today. Yesterday, I was on the phone and directly negotiated what I thought was a pretty large settlement with a claimant attorney. And the day before that, I was on the phone with a primary care physician, kind of arguing if the treatment for this injured worker was appropriate or not. And so at the time, I just couldn't believe the level of responsibility. But what I came to find is like, that's what I love about claims. Every claim is different, and there are so many areas. It's such a dynamic career because there are just so many areas to get interested in. The next kind of, I guess, profound moment I would call out for this conversation was still when I was an entry-level claims handler. I was actually about a year in, and the first year for me was an absolute grind. Like the learning curve was really steep, and it took me probably a year to feel like I was kind of even okay at what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I was around some like master technicians, so that helped me, but also it humbled me at the same time. But I remember at the time I was a lot of my time and my energy was spent kind of thinking about things outside of claims, outside of work. I was still thinking about this thing I was doing as a job. And maybe you'd call them side hustles today,
Yeah. The
and
term
I
is really
remember,
different, though.
yeah, this other profound moment is another internal conversation I had with myself. And I remember, thinking to myself, man, wouldn't it be great if I was as passionate about claims as I am about these other things that I keep spending my time and energy on? And this light bulb went off for me. And the reason I tell this story is because this is when I think I didn't know it at the time, but I really started thinking about claims as a profession, and my career trajectory completely changed because um, I found passion. I found that passion, and I was intentional about it. And I found passion in two areas. And it was around the customer. How do you provide an exceptional customer experience when it comes to claims? Because a lot of times, when people file claims, it is they're in a time of need.
Yeah.
And I believe that you can find a lot of purpose in getting really good at that component of it. And then the other thing I found a lot of passion around was just kind of, I guess I would say, continuous improvement. Like, we have all these internal processes that are just, sometimes don't make much common sense. And so I really started to, at first at my own desk, solve business problems. And then as I progressed in my career, just continue to solve bigger and bigger business problems. And so that was kind of like this big defining moment where I decided to get passionate about claims. And today, certain people would describe me as being abnormally passionate about claims, and it's probably a good description. So
That's all right. You're a good champion for us all. So what we just have a minute or two left. Was there, you mentioned to me that there were kind of like three major things in your path.
yeah.
Yeah. What
Well,
was
the last one I want to talk about is, I'll fast forward a lot because, I think, finding that passion, putting yourself out there, that's what really opened up a lot of the opportunities for me throughout my career. But I will say, in coming to Central, I've become, I'm learning a lot about how powerful culture is, and so when I got to Central, one of the very first things that was told to me was Peter Drucker's quote, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." You probably heard it many times. And so when I came to Central, I just come from leading claim strategy at CNA, so I wasn't sure how to interpret that. I didn't know if that was an indictment on strategy or if I was taking the wrong approach. But I will say, I've come to learn a little bit that if you line up if you think about engineering culture or developing strategy or rolling out an awesome training program, these are all just high leverage activities that an organization can do. And so the last little kind of big profound moment I had is like understanding that culture, if you think about it as a food chain, it is the great white shark. It is the top of the food chain. So it's not that any of those things are less important. It's just culture is really important. And so I would encourage people to find companies and places to work at, like Central, to learn and grow in their career, because it becomes it makes this thing we do. We work hard at it, but it makes this thing we do so much fun when you're doing it around people that you enjoy working with and learning from. So that's kind of the last big kind of profound learning that I've had, or most recent one at least. So.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on, and I fully agree with you on that. I think we talk a lot about this being a people business, and it is, but more than anything, I think it's a culture business. If you get the culture right, everything else falls in place. And if you have the culture wrong, it doesn't really matter if you've got great people or a great product or anything else. It's not really going to work out long term, or you certainly wouldn't want to be there for it. So I think, yeah, culture is the top of the food chain.
For sure.
It's great to sit down with you. Thank you so much for the time. And I hope people take this message in and think about it as they debate, like, where can I go and how would I get there?
Thanks, Brian. It's been awesome.